All right. Hello, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. My name's Lauren Bostic, and I'm a senior sales engineer here at MicroStrategy. And I have the privilege of being part of the account team that supports Bayer, as well as introducing them here today. What they've done as far as their solution, as well as what they've done over the last year, has been really tremendous. And there's a lot of common themes that I see with Bayer Story, as well as customers that are in other industries as well. So I think, regardless of what industry you're in, I think there's a lot of great takeaways from what they have to share here today. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to Sri and Mathew with Bayer.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. And good afternoon. So I'm Sri Rao, as part of the keynote in the morning, so probably I'll spare the long introduction and keep it brief. So I'm part of Bayer organization. I've been with the Bayer for a little over 3 years. Been in the life science or the pharma industry for 12 to 15 years now. Within Bayer, I head the data and analytics solutions for the commercial part of the organization, supporting all the different franchises, which I was mentioning earlier in the morning, oncology, which we are primarily focused on prostate, cardiovascular, which is primarily we are focused on chronic kidney disease, and women's health on IUDs and other products that we support, and hemophilia for the hemophilia patients that we support. My team basically supports all these different franchises on various aspects in terms of field force, in terms of these different activities that they do across the organization. And each therapeutic area or franchise have a different commercial model in which they do the work. For example, oncology is more focused on account-based selling. Whereas if I look at the cardiovascular renal, it's more of a retail product. So the approach you need to take in terms of how you provide those insights and bring the data together is very, very different. So how do we bring that seamless experience, not having to over-engineer, has been a key goal within the organization. So that's a brief introduction about myself and what I do and what my team does. Mathew?
Yeah, hello everyone. Good evening. And we are actually thinking how many were going to show up for this session because it's a late evening session. But then we had AI as part of our presentation. So I had some hope that there's going to be quite a few folks. So thanks for showing up. And I'm Mathew Ratnam, and I'm the digital lead for US Pharma. So my core focus from a Bayer standpoint is ensuring that whatever strategy that Sri and his team wants to deploy and achieve, that we are able to support from an IT perspective. And how many of you, especially if you're in IT, if you don't have the right backbone, the right framework, then you're not going to be successful. So that's what I focus on. And from my perspective, I have over 22 years of experience in the industry, insurance, pharma, especially on the consulting side, and now for the past couple of years with Bayer. So you're hoping to have a very interactive and very good session today. So let me see if this works. And all right, we'll just switch between the two of us. So I think we are done with the introduction, and so we'll cover a whole range of topics, and some of them are going to be very relevant for what journey you're yourself having. So hopefully before that, I want to quickly talk about who we are, right, from a Bayer perspective. And when I joined Bayer, Bayer really interested me and intrigued me because this is one of the companies which impacts human life in very different aspects. So we have 3 different divisions that we represent, and we are primarily from pharmaceuticals. But consumer health, if you are not using one of Bayer's consumer health product, I'll be really surprised. Maybe you came from Mars or whatever. But one a day woman, Claritin. I mean, if you're in, we are from Northeast. I mean, our children are always on Claritin for sure, with all the pollen allergies and stuff like that. And Flintstone. Kids love Flintstone vitamins, right? So a lot of different products on the personal health side, and on the pharma side, it's very the products that we have, in a way, it is very personal to many of us because we are into cardiovascular and renal health, and also we have many prostate cancer is one of the other areas where we have treatments. And so it's very personal from that perspective as well. And agriculture or crop science is another area where Bayer has a division. And in fact, I mean, I was just looking up, and Bayer is one of the most prolific or organization, corporation that's actually one of the top seed producing corporations in the world. And then we have also many other products around crop protection and digital farming, very, very interesting stuff there as well. But then today we are going to be talking about pharmaceuticals and what do we do from a MicroStrategy standpoint, and what was our journey when we went ahead and decided to go with MicroStrategy and how that journey progressed. So let's talk about some of our business objectives and outcomes that we wanted to drive, and then come back a little later as well.
Thank you, Mathew. To talk about the journey, right? I think it's important to understand the pharma and the background in terms of who are our customers, who do we need to support, right? So I was mentioning about the field force. So we have thousands of field force members across the country. They're constantly visiting clinics, hospitals, visiting the nurse practitioner, having a conversation with nurse practitioners, doctors, and things of nature on a regular basis. So able to kind of provide them the insights that they need across all these different franchises is critical. Supporting in terms of different, how do I segment the customers? How do I manage the segmentation of those customers and able to effectively cater the needs or insights needed to kind of manage that effectively, right? So that's another aspect that we critically, that's important for us to kind of manage and support. And obviously, anything we do, we want to kind of measure the performance of sales, try to understand the outcome, and able to kind of pivot or make changes accordingly, strategically to support the needed performance and the outcome or the goals or the objectives that we have, right? And then across the board, right, if you need to support digital, what are the things that I need to do in terms of identifying the audience needed for the digital campaign, or even able to measure the effectiveness of that campaign. So a lot of these data that need to be connected together, able to not only provide insights, but also able to take action across the organization. So those are some of the key common themes that our customers or the users have been always asking us about, and able to do that in an ease and quick and easy way is one of the key things that they were all constantly talking about. So the challenges, if you move to the next slide, Mathew, please. Yeah. There has been, as I was mentioning, across all these different user groups, challenge always has been, especially for the field force, common complaint, and probably you may have all heard about the same, is, hey, the hourglass keeps moving. When I click on something, it takes forever to come back, right? I cannot drill down to the details. If I need to drill down to the details, I have to click and wait. And sometimes I don't get it because I have a weak internet connection. So that's one of the common challenges that we have heard. The other numerous challenge that we have also seen is when I have these different functional groups and user groups, everybody wants to create their own versions of the reports. And they're producing their own KPIs. I see you smiling, and that's a common challenge that we all have, right? And the business rules applied in that report versus another report is different. Then the numbers doesn't match up. So they say, okay, which report is the right one? That's a common challenge that we constantly hear about that too, right? This has been an age-old problem. And then the other aspect is the business is constantly evolving and changing. And we need an ability to quickly adapt to those changes and quickly able to support that, able to build the necessary capabilities, what they need, so that they can do their job effectively and not have to worry on having to think about how do I gather the information needed to enable what I need to enable, right? So, and then obviously the ability to scale. If I did for one brand, if the other brand asks the same thing, I can't say come back 3 months later or 6 months later, I'm going to come back to you, right? Ability to scale quickly is an equally important aspect or a challenge that we have constantly heard about. So what we did was, and the other aspect I want to call out before we get to the persona part is, what this also leads to is, and probably you may have all heard about it, where sometimes we over-engineer and overcompensate in building that one report that can help solve the problem of the world. Then nobody can use it, because if one person is using it, they feel the other part of it is not useful for them or it's not fully functional, because we're trying to solve for everybody. So what we did was we took a step back and said, okay, let's identify who are the users. Let's identify the key focus areas that we need to focus on and define these key personas, right? What does the field need? What do they need to have at their fingertips to do their job effectively? What does a home office leadership team need? What do they need to focus on? Are they focused on the nitty-gritties at the territory level or a doctor level? Or are they focused at a national level on what the goals are? Where am I doing well? What am I not doing well? Where do I need to invest? Are they focused on that aspect of it, right? And what are my analysts focused on? Are they interested in reports, or they need some kind of a self-serve where we can empower them to do their analysis and provide the necessary insights downstream to the field or to the upstream to the senior leadership so they can make the right decisions, right? So these are some key things that we were focusing on in terms of personas, right? And lastly, the insights analytics team, which is the key focus area in terms of they building the advanced analytics models, leverage some of these AI capabilities effectively, and be able to drive that insights both upwards and down and across the organization, right? So these were some of the major areas in terms of personas that we identified. So once we identified this helped us to then start thinking through what should the platform looks like. Move to the next slide, please. So we internally infamously call this as our house slide. So if you see the house as a foundation, which is very important, so you need to have a sound foundation in terms of data, in terms of data model, architecture, the pipeline, the quality metrics that you need to manage, all of that aspect of it. The second important part of it is building data products. Instead of having each report have their own business rules, every functional group stitching or cobbling together data themselves and applying their own rules, build data products, right? So we started building out these 3 data products, which is very focused for us. One is Customer 360, that gives a complete view of the customer, which is for us, the customer is a doctor. Understanding who is he writing about, what are the competitors that he's writing about, when did I make my last call with that person, understanding the doctors basically in terms of demographic details. All of that overall overview of the Customer 360 is what that Customer 360 product would provide. The Account 360 elevates that in a different level, right? If I'm at a hospital, what does an Account 360 looks like? Who are the doctors there? What are the selling points? All of those details you can get from the Account 360. And the Patient 360 helps us to understand, end of the day, we want to kind of ensure our product reaches the patients. And so we also want to understand what's the prescribing habits, what is the patient journey, what's the longitudinal analysis that we can do with the patients. So building those data products is very critical for us. Now, once we have those products built, and all of these are interconnectable with the right level of time dimensions, right level of granularity where you can connect these things, that helps us to kind of build on top of it different those personas that we were talking about in the earlier slide. Be it from the field user's perspective, enabling the mobile app, building for the analyst the self-serve capability, and supporting with some of the dashboards using dossiers and other things for the senior leadership. So that was a key objective overall that we wanted to kind of enable as part of this journey. Move to the next slide, please. So as part of one of the key requirements that we had from the field, there was the ability to understand the customer information effectively at their fingertips while they're meeting the doctors, right? Generally, they have a time about 5 to 7 minutes. That's the max that they get with the doctor, right? So they need the information prepared well ahead, either sitting at Starbucks or in a garage in the car just before they're meeting the doctor, understanding what am I going to have a conversation about. So having that information, when did I last spoke to that person? What has he or she been writing or prescribing? What was that interaction previously, in the prior conversations? Having some of those details helps them to kind of have that effective conversation with the doctor, right? Able to kind of maximize in terms of the time of the HCP is the key part that I was mentioning earlier. And kind of seamlessly able to navigate between not only understanding the customer aspect of it, but also understanding their own performance. Because they also, at the end of the day, have objectives or goals. So where do I stand towards my goal? What else do I need to accomplish before I get there, right? Understanding that overview of their own performance is also equally important. So these are some common themes that they constantly ask us about. And also being speed and agility in terms of as the market changes, market dynamics changes, they also want a quick ability to kind of implement some of those changes and made available through the mobile app. So these are some common requirements that they shared with us. You can move to the next slide, please. So what led from that is primarily 3 major applications that we started building. And we named them, actually, one of them, this field mobile app, we called it as Athena. We call the home office leadership dashboards as Mercury, and then the self-serve capability as Star. So basically, we built 3 of these major capabilities focused on the key things that I was mentioning in the earlier slide about the user needs per se. MicroStrategy played a critical role aspect of it because we evaluated multiple tools. MicroStrategy offers the offline capability, which is very, very critical for us in terms of you can push out the data on a weekly basis, on a Monday or a Tuesday. A rep or a salesperson can download that on their app, on their iPad, and after they do that, they can stay offline. And when you're offline, the speed in which they can navigate between different screens is lightning speed because everything is on the iPad. So it moves much, much faster, lot easier to use. You can drill down to details and navigate through specific to your persona. So if you're in a specific territory, it automatically understands, okay, you're for the territory, and it understands you and gives you the details for your territory. So it just gets you some of those details effectively. We also, the other aspect that we started liking really from MicroStrategy was the schematic layer or semantic layer, that it allows us to kind of connect between the mobile app versus the self-serve or the home office, all able to interconnect through the semantic layer in an effective way. So the data is consistent, and the rules, the KPIs are consistent across the board. So that was another aspect that we really liked in the MicroStrategy that we decided to kind of go and start utilizing it. So with that, I'll hand over to Mathew to more talk about our MCE journey.
So this is a very interesting slide to start the MCE journey. So how many of you were there last year in the cloud, in the world? Yeah. How many of you went on this roller coaster? So this roller coaster is actually called as rocket roller coaster. So when you look at it, you might be asking the question to me, did you rocket or did you go on a roller coaster, right? When we talk about the MCE cloud. So we'll talk about that in the next few slides. So when we, in fact, when we were actually entering this room, somebody was asking us, how did you really determine which way to go when it comes to MCE migration? I think everybody has to have your own determination and how you want to go about it. But when we looked at it, where we were actually in a partner cloud. We were not on-prem, so you might be in an on-prem situation. But for us, it was a partner cloud, and we saw the need for MCE because of few reasons, right? One specifically, as Sri was mentioning, it gives us the ability to have all the patches, everything that MicroStrategy is going to be doing on the cloud available to us immediately as and when it is available for them or when they deploy it. And for us, that was an important decision point, and apart from that, a couple of others as well, which we'll talk about. But we had a particular approach that we took, and it was critical that, I mean, if you're part of IT, you don't want a technology project to stop what your business is doing. And absolutely, this is one of those projects, if it's not done right, can make that happen. So you don't want to take a wrong step in that direction. So we wanted to make sure that it's a like-to-like. We didn't want to do any huge bells and whistles on top of what we were doing from a migration perspective. We wanted to make sure that anything that we see as a deficiency, especially from a capacity perspective, the way that we have structured our server with respect to our partner cloud, how do we remediate some of the issues? So it's good to have a list of items. So we actually came up with a list of items that we worked with the MicroStrategy Cloud team to say, hey, these are the challenges that we are having. Let's partner. Let's see what are the options that we have to address those. And then our guiding principle was this: there can be zero user impact. I mean, it has to work seamlessly, and nobody should even be aware of whether we were on partner cloud or we were on the MCE cloud. So that's how we approached this. And from a version perspective, we were in 2021 update 5.1, and we were moving to 2021 update 11, which was the latest version at that time. So it is AWS from a cloud standpoint. Both were AWS. So if you have different clouds, maybe you might have to take a different approach from us. What we liked about this whole thing was direct MicroStrategy engagement, because when we were doing when we were having the engagement through our partners, what we saw is many features were available, but not available to us, because they said, hey, we have to vet this out, we have to do this or that. So it was not available to us, and for the right reasons from their perspective, right? So, but for us, it was important that all features, when it's available in the cloud, that it's available to us as well. We wanted to make sure that all the latest functionality, whether it be AI or any other features that gets deployed from a MicroStrategy products perspective, that we are able to have access to that. We wanted to make sure that there was an ease of implementation and adaptation. What that means is, so when we have any patches, when we have any new versions that are being deployed, we wanted to make sure that those are implemented without any issue, and from an operational efficiency perspective, that we don't have to pay additionally just to bring those updates in. And also wanted to make sure that when we structure our deployment teams, that when we work with MCE, we have this cloud team, we have our own partner team. So how we structure that, that was going to be very critical as well in terms of how we structure our team composition and our engagement with MicroStrategy. And I already spoke about the operational efficiency that we were planning to gain by way of doing this. So what I really liked, especially running this project with Rajat and his team, and also the cloud team, when we went into this, we were given a guidance, a recommendation that, hey, let's partner together. Let's not do it one way or other, but let's make sure that all the various parties that are going to get involved come together. So what that means is the MicroStrategy professional services, they played a key role in terms of coming up with a playbook-based approach. So what we realized is there are going to be many different activities that go in as part of this migration. And if we don't approach it knowing what we are going to do step by step, then we might actually lose out, or we might miss a few steps, which can actually add a lot of risk from a program perspective. So we worked with the MicroStrategy team to come up with a RACI of who will own what are the steps to be done. So we exactly knew what were the phases of the project, who was going to be doing what in each of those phases, which is mentioned here. And how are we going to ensure and validate that when we go to MicroStrategy Cloud, it's going to work seamlessly. So we wanted to make sure that there's no user impact. There were actually many teams that were involved. And somebody was talking in another session that when we do these kind of things, it's pretty challenging just to bring every team together, especially even from a Bayer-like enterprise. You have network, you have server teams, you have the ones who own the access management, authentication. I mean, it's huge endeavor for us. So when we listed it down, it was it was like a village was brought together just to deploy this, right? But what we learned through that process, when we went through each of these stages, right, like the planning, the migration preparation, with the establishing connectivity. I mean, it's always a challenge when we have to establish connectivity to a new product cloud. And the migration itself, how we went ahead and did it, we saw that there were not too many major issues from a from a compatibility perspective because of the different versions that we were in. So that was one of the positive things that we saw, that there were no major issues from that perspective. The professional services team had a good handle on how to do this, and they were guiding our partner team as well, and also our internal teams, because they've done this a few times, so they were able to support us from that perspective. What we did see is when we had the testing done, there were a few issues, and some of those issues were pointing to some levels that we were already going to be breaching from the way that the cache was structured. So I'll talk about it briefly. So these are some of the lessons learned that we had. So one is, especially if you're in an older version and you built an app, you would, by not knowing, you would be actually at a app storage level that you're already breaching the size that an iPad can support. So that was one of the learnings that we learned, because we saw that the app was failing in few cases to load. And what we realized is the data volume was higher, or the binary size of the app was already breaching the iPad limit that was there. So that was one thing that we learned, and we remediated it. So you either reduce some of your icon sizes, move stuffs around. There was also an icon issue where some of the icons were not getting loaded because of that. So if you are able to know what is your binary size, I mean, you can actually reduce the number of cycle times in terms of working with the different teams on this topic. So yeah, data volume was another challenge that we had. The one issue that we saw, especially when you have offline capability enabled, I don't know if you're going to have this yourself, but what we realized is we were able to do auto push. So when you're looking at 1,000+ users, the app got updated, but then the app which they were opening was still pointing to the older environment. So they had to go into the settings and do just a couple of push of buttons, but then doing it for 1,000+ users, that was a challenge that we had. Maybe if you have 20,000, 30,000 users, I know that some of you have that kind of user population. Maybe that's change management that you should account for as well. And the other learning overall, not just specific to MCE, but the overall learning that we had is moving from any other product to MicroStrategy. And this is the case with any product, right? We have to ensure that we have a good training and change management plan. And we did work with MicroStrategy to ensure that some of the assets that they have from a training perspective, that's available to us. So that was where how we started. And we actually started around October of last year. And we were able to successfully deploy it end of March. And it was amazing. I mean, we didn't have any P1 tickets, maybe a slight increase in the number of incidents that we had. But overall, I mean, it was a very successful and seamless migration, thanks to the MicroStrategy team and all the partners involved. I'll hand it off to Sri now to continue on where we go next.
Yeah, thank you, Mathew. So I think now that we are on the MCE cloud, right? So now that will also help us now to start leveraging some of these new capabilities, what MicroStrategy is offering. Things that we saw today in the morning, right? All those new, the auto products and all of that is now readily available for us to start using it. And we have already started some of those conversations with the MicroStrategy team in terms of starting to figure out what use cases make sense for what, how do we use it, and things of nature. So we are in the early stages of the conversations on many of these things. So some of the ideas that we are thinking, auto answer, right? So if we can embed this within our dashboard and have a sales rep who maybe be seeing certain things, or a leader who might be seeing certain things, but they want to know a little bit more about their data, about a particular market or a particular performance of a particular region. They can easily ask that question as a follow-up question and get some of those details that may not be readily available on a dashboard itself. So something along those lines we are thinking about in terms of auto answer. Auto dashboard would be another very useful for us in terms of for the analysts and other things. If they are in a meeting and they want to quickly visualize something and able to present it, makes it a lot easier now as compared to I have to go to the developer, they have to develop it and go from development to test to UAT and prod. So if I can have this sit on the data products with the right quality of data, it makes it a lot easy for me to plug it in and start utilizing this and accelerate some of the insights needed from the business point of view, right? The Autobot can significantly help in terms of almost like a virtual help desk for data from the field perspective, or even for our internal users. Significantly it can help there. And AutoSQL is another key thing that would be useful, because then I don't have to worry about teaching people on how to code or how to connect data between different data products and things of nature. If I can have the machine learn it And if they ask an NLP-based or a natural language question, and if it can help build a SQL for me, that's powerful. And looking forward to kind of start utilizing some of these capabilities within the organization.
So with that, we want to open up for any Q&A that you might have or on any of the topics.
I'm just curious, with the AutoSQL, you're using schema, correct?
I'm sorry?
You're using schema.
Yes.
So AutoSQL seems redundant. Schema is just drag and drop, right? It generates the SQL for you. Are you anticipating letting people bring in their own data?
Yes.
There's that piece, getting your own data. I think what Beer's really working with is also how to enable the implementation team to improve validation with some of the semantic layer changes. And I think this is a different way to look at it. And we're starting to think about it from that use case.
Thank you.
Looks like you guys have built dashboards across iPad, mobile, and desktop. So you have to customize the dashboard, like you build a dashboard specifically for iPad and one for mobile or one for desktop, or you just build one single dashboard and customize it in such a way that it works well, with all the formatting and other things for iPad, mobile, and the desktop as well?
Yeah, so good question. So it's a combination of both. I think the common thread is the KPIs and metrics that are same. Some of the dashboards or visuals, what you see in an iPad, on a web, or a home office apps are still the same. Now, the user, based on the user persona, the level of information they see, or the aggregation, or the roll-ups, or roll-down, or drill-down, or across are varying. And we give that additional enhanced versions for those different personas within the organization.
How did you get buy-in on the KPIs? Like, how did you get everyone kind of on the same page with definitions for the KPIs?
Yeah.
That seems to be a ridiculous challenge from our perspective.
That's a tough challenge, and it's a continued journey. I think that requires some of the data literacy and educating them about some of the common problems or pitfalls. So they also have that appreciation once they understand that aspect of it. And then putting in front of them, hey, here is the 3 different business rules that are there. And here are the 3 different ways this metrics is calculated. What makes more sense for this particular brand versus this brand? Are there certain KPIs that are more at an organizational level that I want to track? What are those? Can we align on that? Right? I think having that committee and having that alignment is very critical. And that's what we did.
So from what I saw over here, is all the report development and other things centralized under your team, or do you have citizen report developers? And if you have, how does that relationship work? I think everything you showed us seemed to be schema'd, but citizen reporters, report developers, they don't go for schema, or they pull their data on their own and create reports. So what happens in those situations if you have such kind of a scenario?
Good question. So I think one of the key things we considered during this design was making sure everybody is pulling from the same source, which is the semantic layer. And in terms of the products and that semantic layer from what they're pulling from. So the result or the KPIs that are pre-calculated, they're getting consistently. So that's kind of what we did, number one. Number two, yes, the majority of the reports that need to be refreshed on a weekly, monthly basis and deployed for thousands of users, that is maintained centrally. For the self-serve analysts, the term that you use is citizen users, we empower them and constantly train them and regularly engage them in terms of how to, and also ensure they're leveraging the right KPIs and metrics, so there's no redundancy or challenges in terms of the quality that they're producing. It's a journey still. There are times people who are more comfortable directly with a Snowflake or something else, they want to go directly. So we are trying to educate them and the reasoning behind it to make sure they go through this channel so it's consistent across the board.
There's always a fight between, I want the data right now, I want to analyze it right now.
Yeah.
As compared to putting it in schema, which has its own time frame, right? And that's the struggle, at least we are facing in our organization.
Yeah. So I think it's a baby step. I think to that point, right, what we have started thinking through and doing is, one, I think it's a crawl, walk, run, right? So if there are certain things that you are bringing your own data, and you want to pivot or do certain things reporting-wise differently. If you want to start small, it's okay for a citizen to have them do it locally to start with. And once they feel that, okay, this is now mature, now it will be published broadly, coming back to the central team to able to then make it more organizationally better in terms of publishing it is another aspect that we are kind of working through.
Do we have any other questions?
Do you guys employ transformation services, transaction services, sorry, in any of your dashboards in terms of if it's a doctor inputting data, to write back to database or whatever that is? Do you use or utilize transaction services?
No, the write-backs are, we don't have any write-back use cases.
So for the transition into MicroStrategy Cloud, how long did it take, from a months or years perspective?
Yeah, so we started the planning around September. The actual project started in October. And then it was around 5 months from there. End of March, we were already on the MCA Cloud.
What was the most time-consuming part of the whole transition?
Yeah, I think it was the testing piece because we did not want to take any chances. So what we did is a full regression test of the entire platform. And then so the way we went ahead and did that is once we migrated it to production, until production in development in SIT, we did a level of testing, but then we migrated into MC production and then did end-to-end testing. So that was the most time-consuming, and I'm sure that everyone will agree to that. I mean, you want to really focus on that when you are doing your migration as well.
All right, thanks.
The testing piece got through me another question. How did you manage putting a pause to the development? I'm assuming when you start moving from one cloud to another cloud, you would obviously, if you need to make any development, you need to be making it twice, in your existing cloud and the new cloud. If else not, you just need to pause it out. How did you manage that piece of stopping the development completely?
So I think that's an excellent question. That was the biggest problem that we were looking to solve. Because the way we went about doing that is we were continuing to develop everything as is on our partner cloud. So until we got to a point of full cutover, we were developing everything in the partner cloud. So we took a first cut of the metadata, moved it to MCE, did all the testing. And then the challenge that we had is we have a very active system. So we cannot really pause anything. In fact, we were not even able to pause for a couple of weeks. So the way we worked with Rajat and team is to make sure that we made that the movement of or the pausing of development, we kept it less than a week or so. So for development to SIT, we kept it for a week. And then actually for production, we kept it even much smaller than that, like 4-5 days. So we were able to work with our partner team as well as with MicroStrategy team to come up with a plan to do all these migrations on weekends. And then we accounted for only a couple of weekdays to do some of the smoke testing when we did this cutover. So I think that was very critical from a planning perspective and how you execute as well. No. In terms of the issue from a distribution services, if you have any of those subscriptions in your other cloud, once you move over, if people are, if you don't plan it properly, maybe one or two, if it gets missed out, we did have those scenarios. If you don't know which are those various subscriptions, but pretty much, I don't remember having any such issues from a distribution services perspective, but I do remember one or two issues popped up, but we were able to address that.
So there's a certain process that we follow in the cloud migration where we do not enable distribution services till we are either really close at the cutover or right after cutover. So obviously the cloud migrations team that we have at MicroStrategy, they actually monitor that and they're very proactive about managing that. So we were, a few missed out because we had a couple of testing that we want to do, which was intentional. But the idea is to not enable distribution services in your target environment until you're completely ready and you're ready to switch over.
Yeah, and in our case, it happened only immediately after.
So was it a post-migration to the new solution? Was there like a control group for a certain period of time, or was it just a full cutover? You're now on the new cloud.
We had a control group. So we had at least a week of control group accessing and testing the new environment before we open it up for the entire user base.
So it was all personas, right? Just to get into it.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah. We did have champions across all the personas. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we kept it for a week.
I think I forgot my question. So I am curious with regards to, you talked about it was 5 months long. Can you tell us approximately how much of that was your testing? I mean, my organization's contemplating moving to the cloud, and so is theirs as well. And I'm curious, how efficient is the MicroStrategy team at doing this conversion? Because we're looking at 90 days in our contract. And so I'm wondering, are we going to hit that?
Yeah, so the testing piece, the way we approached it is we did not do just functional testing. We were also very keen on doing load and stress testing as well, performance testing as well, because one thing we did not want to do is go into MC and then start facing it. So we had to do, that piece was not actually looked at when we budgeted the project, but then we said, hey, we have to invest into that. That's going to be critical for the success of this project. So the way that we structured for us, it was around 2 months of testing. But then when we are talking about testing, I mean, of course, we have a newer system. So we have a base of regression tests that we can actually start off with. And our partner who is engaged is also the ones who built the system. So if you have a very legacy, like you had it for years, you might have a different challenge altogether just to put that regression suite together unless you have already a regression suite. So those are, I mean, at least from our perspective, it was a shorter duration. But I think depending on the complexity of your application and your use cases, you might have a longer time as well.
Yeah, I think
we have time for one last question.
the planning portion, the beginning, and the testing, these are the two critical aspects for you to be successful.
Right.
Can I have a list of all your generic steps?
Yeah, actually, the generic step provided by MicroStrategy. So they have a good list of things. So I think Rajat can. And then we took that and we customized it. We brought in, I mean, the stress test, the load test. I mean, those are things that we brought in and we added to that. Yeah.
How do you plan? How would you plan in case you need scalability on the environment? And secondly, do you have disaster recovery in your current plan? Or if not, how would you plan for it?
Scalability was something that you had to plan ahead. So as we were kind of going through the initial planning stages, we knew that we had to support a certain amount of users. In this case, it was 1,000 plus field users plus a whole bunch of ad hoc report creators and users. So there was some element of planning. Coming to disaster recovery, right? There are different options available within our MC offering. There is a hot and a hot cold option or a hot warm option. So all those things are something that we kind of tailor it based on what your needs are and what are your compliance or disaster recovery kind of requirements. I think for Bayer's case, we have a hot warm kind of a setup, which is very close to what we offer pretty much almost all of our customers.
Well, thank you for an amazing session. We are unfortunately out of time, but let's have one more round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.